everybody. My name is Jenny Ahlstrom, and I am the CEO of HealthTree Foundation and a multiple myeloma patient.
Hey, I'm JP Capdevila, HealthTree CTO.
We are super excited today to share the very first Myeloma Monday during Myeloma Awareness Month. Now, we consider ourselves the market leader in digital health advocacy. And what does that mean? You're going to hear a little bit about what that means because we will be sharing technology advances that we are making every Monday in the month of March. And today we are very excited to share a clinical trial technology that will help you find faster and better myeloma clinical trials.
We're super excited to share the engineering, product design, doctor, medical team within HealthTree. We've been working hard at this one. And so I would like to hear, Jenny, about your treatment history a little bit, and then how did you end up participating in a clinical trial?
So I started treatment back in 2010. I did double stem cell transplants. At the time, I didn't realize as a newly diagnosed patient that clinical trials were even a treatment option. But as I started those tandem transplants, my doctor actually invited me to participate in several clinical trials as part of that or as part of my maintenance therapy. So by the time I had finished my initial treatment, I'd actually participated in a couple clinical trials. But I actually realized, I don't know why I felt like this because maybe it didn't turn out to be the case, but I just felt like I would need another therapy immediately. And I wanted to plan ahead. I didn't want to be caught off guard. I didn't want to be panicked. I wanted to look ahead and see what my options were. At the time, there was transplant. We didn't have all these things like daratumumab or Blenrep or teclistamab and CAR T. We didn't have all of that. So a clinical trial would have been my best possible option. So I went to clinicaltrials.gov, which is this website that everybody can go to. That's where all the trials have to be registered for a pharma company or an investigator to share their clinical trial. And started searching, and I started reading some of the trials, and I actually just started crying because I didn't understand what any of the drug names, I didn't understand anything.
I've heard that. I've heard that it's quite challenging to go through the whole list.
Well, I didn't know what lenalidomide was or bortezomib was. I mean, I'm much more savvy now that I'm a more experienced patient, but I had no idea. And then you try to find one that you can actually match to, like which one is for me, and it's impossible. So I did my best. I stopped crying. I called 8 different facilities saying, hey, you've got a clinical trial that I am interested in. And I got a call back from 2. And then 2 out of the 8, I just thought, this is really difficult for patients. Like, how do they even, I'm a proactive patient. I'm trying to get into a clinical trial. I'm advocating for myself. This is so hard. Why is this so hard? It shouldn't be this hard for patients to join. And it's so important because clinical trials are so critical. So every myeloma drug that we have now is because we had a clinical trial for it.
At some point, every treatment was a trial, right?
Every single treatment. That's how we make advances. And there are only about 5% of patients, adult cancer patients, who participate in clinical trials. So if we as patients want to see the field move faster, it behooves us to see if a clinical trial is appropriate for us at every stage of our treatment. Now, is it always appropriate? Is a clinical trial always appropriate? Maybe not. But you don't know that until you have that sit down with your doctor and say, what are all of my treatment options? So we want patients to think about this. And actually, it's the first program that was ever developed by originally the myeloma crowd, now HealthTree Foundation, was the podcast. Because I thought as a patient, this is impossible. How do patients even understand what these trials are? So we started the podcast series. I've done over 180 shows now. One comes out, I think, tomorrow.
Okay.
On a smoldering myeloma trial. But to help patients hear straight from the doctor about these clinical trials. So clinical trials are the way that research advances, and it is the biggest, probably one of the biggest expenses in running a clinical trial is waiting for patients to find the trial or recruit for the trial It's so expensive. So if we want lower costs in our healthcare and we want faster development, we really need to join clinical trials.
Yeah, seems like an important thing to figure out, right? I would like to show you what we built. And before we get to that,
I can't wait.
for anyone not familiar with how this looks like, I'm going to go through clinicaltrials.gov, and let's pretend we're a patient trying to get to a trial for the first time. So you will go to clinicaltrials.gov and you will say, okay, I'm a multiple myeloma patient. And you can search by other terms. These may be like drug targets, intervention, treatment. That's if you know those complex medication names and whatnot, right? Most patients are here because they're trying to learn and figure out options, not because they know already what to look for. So let's go ahead and say search. And that gives you a list of
over 3,000. Yeah,
right?
crazy number.
And then you need to start filtering things down. Okay, you want to see trials that are recruiting, apply those filters. Still 552, maybe you want to narrow that to trials running in the US, apply filters, and that gives you 289 trials. From here, I will figure this is where you start crying, right? Because there's 289 that you have to click around and figure out if it's a good fit for you. And I'm not sure how I will do that at all.
You can't. Well, you can't do that on this system. You cannot do that.
Yeah, I guess you will need to go through every single one of them. So let's pretend we're doing that. You click on one of those, you start reading about the trial, and yeah, you can see the trial description, you can see the enrollment target and whatnot. The important thing is this thing called eligibility criteria. And so that tells the patients the different comorbidities or anything on their medical records that they need to have or not have to be able to participate in the trial. So let's check the eligibility criteria for this one specifically. For you to figure out if you're eligible, you'll need to go through this. And let me just highlight the amount of criteria you need to read through and understand. It's all that text, right?
That,
saying you need to have this or not that. You will need to understand that you need to have a serology screening of HbCA B+, and for that, you'll need to have your medical records next to you, right? So you'll need to be super savvy, have all your medical records, and go trial by trial, trying to figure out, I qualify for this one, I don't qualify for this one, and make sure you make no mistakes. I estimate that it'll probably take me an hour to go through this one, and that means you'll need to spend 289 hours.
Yeah, impossible.
Give or take. Impossible for a patient, impossible for any doctors or nurses assisting you. So that's why I've heard that clinical trial participation is very low.
And when we've talked to general oncologists, and a lot of clinical trials maybe are not run in the community setting with a general oncologist, but even at academic centers and general oncologists are telling us that to find a particular clinical trial outside of their center, because they might be more aware of theirs and their inclusion criteria, right? But it takes them like 5 to 6 hours per patient to do a search like that for a particular patient. It's really time consuming. They don't have the time for it. They don't have the energy. They just cannot do it with their clinical practice. They can't do it, even though they want to.
Yeah. They may want to. And that's even if you have trials running on that side at all, right? If you're in a clinic where maybe they're not running trials or doing a lot of research, you're not going to have any options there. They're not going to be able to help you and spend possibly tens of hours, hundreds of hours looking for a trial for you. So I get the struggle. And so that's why we're building this clinical trial AI matcher. And before we get to that, I want to give you an overview on how this works. So,
well, first, before you talk about that, I think we should talk that there are other clinical trial finders out there, right?
Yep.
You might think, oh, there's a clinical trial finder out there. Maybe it's doing the matching, but what you're going to show is a really revolutionary way of doing it based on your own personal medical record. Because there are clinical trial finders where they're more like filters, where you could say, well, show me all the CAR T trials in Tennessee, or show me all the BCMA-directed therapies for a newly diagnosed patient, or by zip code. So there are those types of clinical trial finders, but they're really not personalized, right?
Yeah, they're not. So it's a complex problem, and there's definitely other players around offering that kind of like search. You will still need to have your medical records next to you and enter all that into their interface, right? And what we're trying to do at HealthTree, since we already have your medical records. If you're part of HealthTree Cure Hub, that means you already connected your medical records from 1, 2, 3 different hospitals you've been treated at. We have everything on a single place, and we can leverage that to use AI to go through these complex criteria and match it against your medical records, and hopefully save you from 200 plus hours to a couple of minutes to start seeing trials that are truly relevant to you. So we're leveraging that unique capability we have at HealthTree of connecting with different EHRs to try to get treatment options to patients faster.
Okay,
So
let's see
look
it.
at how that looks like. First step, you will need to go to healthtree.org. And so you go to healthtree.org, you say, I want to find a treatment or clinical trial. You say, I'm a multiple myeloma patient. Then you select Clinical Trial Finder. And that'll take you into this. So we're inside Cure Hub. If you already have your medical records, you can skip this step. For anyone watching that doesn't have medical records, I'm going to show you how in a couple of minutes you can connect any facility. So you go to your Connect Medical Records section on Cure Hub. You click Add New Connection. And I'm going to connect my Huntsman account here in Utah. Okay, I selected Huntsman. Do you have a patient portal with Huntsman? Let's say yes. And I'm going to go through the authorization process. I have my credentials saved here. Yes, use my password. HealthTree has said that, yeah, we want to have access to your medical records. Continue. You can select different things that you want to share. I will just leave it as it is. It selects everything automatically, and that contains your treatment history, diagnosis, labs that we're going to use then to offer you treatment options. You scroll down, you select 3 months, and then allow access.
Simple.
Yeah, and that's it. So from that moment on, we'll start communicating with your hospital. We'll start pulling all the records. It takes around 10 to 15 minutes. And one very important thing is, if you were treated at another facility before, or you go to multiple places because you're in a community, but you also see a myeloma doctor in another center to help with your treatment plan, you can connect both. So you can connect as many hospitals as you want, and that creates a unified medical record that we can use with this AI matching. So
I would even say connect everything that you've ever had treatment for myeloma, because let's say a clinical trial might say, oh, you need 3 prior lines of therapy or something like that. And then 10 years ago, you had a line of therapy or some myeloma treatment, but you're not in that same neighborhood or something like that at that same facility. You might need to do that. So one of the benefits is it creates this single patient profile for you too, right? You can track your labs and you can do things like that.
Yeah, even if you're not looking for trials right now, having a unified medical record helps you with that. So, okay, we connected. We're ready to go and start looking for trials. So you go to the Clinical Trial Finder, and this is a brief explanation of what we're trying to do. We use your medical records to suggest clinical trials that match your needs. As I said, we're using AI to try to solve this problem. So let's say get started. We're going to ask a couple of introductory questions to try to figure out how to better serve you. The first one is, what best describes your current status? In your case, you're a patient in remission. So I'm going to say my disease is in remission. You can select if you're being recently diagnosed, if you're receiving maintenance, or if you relapse or you have progressive disease. Let's go with my disease is in remission. Then, which statement best describes your daily activity level? This is because we're trying to assess, a lot of trials ask us to assess your fitness level. And we could get this from your medical record, but we need the latest thing. We need to know how you're doing this week, how you're doing recently. So I know you pretty well. I know you're quite fit. I can do all my usual activities without help. You select the best one that matches your fitness level. Click next. And then this is very important. So right now you're in remission. And you may not be looking for trials. There may not be a lot of clinical trials right now for you. And that makes sense. But maybe you're planning ahead. Maybe you're trying to see what's in the market for the next 6 months, a year. You're just trying to figure out possible future options. Mm-hmm. So
that's exactly what I wanted when I was first diagnosed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. After I finished.
You could select find clinical trials today or plan ahead. In your case, let's say we're trying to plan ahead. You click next. And then this will explain briefly how the matching works. We're going to see a list of results next. And the way it works is it'll rank the ones that you qualify closely. So if you match all that complex inclusion-exclusion criteria, you're going to see that at the top. It's going to have an A+. If it has 1 or 2 criteria that you're missing, maybe you're going to see A, B. It's like maybe there's a couple of things there. And the reason we cannot guarantee 100% match is because medical records may have gaps, right? Maybe not all of the data is there, so we're ranking them based on the likelihood that it's a good match for you. If something is a poor match where we see from your records that you have a lot of criteria that it's disqualifying you, we're pushing that to the bottom and we're marking it with a C or C minus. Mm-hmm. So let's see how that looks like for you.
And I just want to stress while you're doing that the complexity of the medical data that you're seeing is not simple. So it's messy. It's coming from multiple centers. You have to kind of normalize the data. Like if one facility used gram per deciliter and the other used liter, you're normalizing that data. And we're also going through an automated data validation process where we're pulling some things off. So in the future, you're going to continue to see these trials get more and more refined, like based on genetics and things like that in the future, because as we make this tool more sophisticated, you're going to...
It's quite the challenge. As you were saying, anyone familiar with medical data knows that there's a lot and it's probably not clean, it's messy. And so during this first beta program that we're launching for the clinical trials, we're looking at certain things. It'll just keep getting better and better. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead. That's how fast the match happens. And so because we said we're looking on for trials trying to plan ahead, it selected this relapse refractory progressive tab. If you wanted to switch and let's say check the ones that you qualify for today as a patient in remission, you click that tab. If you wanted to check maintenance, if you wanted to check newly diagnosed or all trials in general, you can switch around. Let's say we're looking for trials right now that you're in remission. So there's a couple of interesting options. As you can see, you have 2 A+ matches. That means we didn't see anything that you were missing there. You have a couple of A's, some B's, and if we scroll down, we start seeing the C's, right? Now, this is a huge thing. You went from 289 trials to 19 that match the remission criteria, and you have 2 trials that you probably want to read in very detail. Another 2 that you want to read as well, some that maybe a second, third option, and the list goes from there. So huge savings already.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a list of like 500 plus open myeloma clinical trials, it's incredible. So
let's look at one of these. You can click on any trial that it's interesting. And there's the basic details. You can see that this trial is a phase 2 treatment, started on 2021, will be completed in 2026, enrolling 47 patients. And you then can read about the trial. So this one is a drug intervention for belantamab.
Blenrep.
That one. And that's why it's hard. You need to know all the different names. And you can see the actual trial eligibility. So we're using AI to break down the criteria into easy to digest bullet points and comparing that against your record. So let's read through this to see if it makes sense. The participant should have been diagnosed with multiple myeloma.
Yes.
There you go. We check that against your records. We know you're a myeloma patient. Should have been treated with a stem cell transplant. As you were saying, that happened, right? ECOG, Eastern Cooperative Oncology Group score must be at most 2. That means your fitness level, and it's a score from 0 to 5. If we were to ask you, what's your ECOG level?
Yeah, who knows? I don't even know that as
Exactly.
a savvy myeloma
So that's
patient.
where we're trying to simplify things. Your score level is probably 0 because you're fit. And so that means you qualify for this one. Participant must have at most 2 lines of therapies. You qualify for that one. Participant latest outcome should be one of the following: maintenance or remission. You're in remission, that makes sense. Then you have some exclusion criteria saying participants should not have been diagnosed with hepatitis B, C, HIV, should not be lactating or pregnant. We checked your records. You don't have any of those conditions. You're good to go with this trial. Participants should not have been diagnosed with amyloidosis. And you don't have that one either.
So I fit all those criteria.
You fit all those criteria. That's great. And I'm very glad this worked. So we can see some other trials that are interesting. I know you have, if I go back to the list, for example, there's on the...
So if I were to progress, right?
If you were to progress, yes. I want to look at this study of Autocell.
So this is actually a new BMS CAR T that's GPRC5D. So it's a different target, treatment target. And if I were to relapse, that's a potential treatment option for me, right? So
Exactly.
I could talk to my doctor about different combo therapies or that are FDA approved, but I could also bring this up and say, hey, what do you think about this clinical trial?
Yeah. And so this one is very exciting. It's CAR T, and you even had CAR T already. These trials...
But it's different target.
Different target.
Yeah.
Different target. It's going to be recruiting soon. So this is actually a very fresh trial. And let's look at the eligibility. So participants should have been diagnosed with myeloma. Yes. Anti-CD38 monoclonal antibodies. Yes. Age, you're older than 18. ECOG at most 1.
So they want a fitter patient for
they
this
want
trial.
fit patients. And we know you're a 0. We selected that. At least 3 lines of therapies. Check. Participant latest outcome should be one of the following: relapse, refractory, progressive. We're looking at progressive a relapse for this one. So that's why this one's a good to go. Exclusion criteria: not have been diagnosed with a bacterial infection, fungal infection, viral infection. And you don't have any of that right now. So it's important to mention that, for example, you may get a viral infection. And there's certain criteria that may change over time, especially things like this. And all these will be evaluated if you're actually going through the enrollment process on a trial, right?
But that's why you need to also have connected and updated medical records all the time, because if you connected your medical records and then you relapse 3 months later or 6 months later and then you want to go see your next list, you need to make sure that you're looking at the most current option. So you can go back in, just says tap to connect. It's super simple to reconnect your records so you have a current list of everything that's the closest possible with all the data the doctor has in the
and we're
chart.
actually, if you make sure you have your records updated, we can notify you. Every month we can say, hey, here's a summary of your trial options. And as you evolve as a patient, you can see how different options open or close or just get updated as new trials come into the market. Like, I'm sure this trial was recently added. You will get notified that, hey, you're eligible for this one now. And so that means that if you make sure you have your records updated every 3 months, as we saw on the authorization page, you can be on top of things just by being part of HealthTree Cure Hub, and we'll notify you. So How do you feel about this one so far?
Well, I love it. And there's more to joining a clinical trial than just being shown some of your options. But I have a lot more options, like if I relapsed, than if I were still in remission. So there's kind of a difference there. But some of it is just getting personalized help, getting into the trial, right? So
yeah, that's a very important thing we have at HealthTree. So we have a team of dedicated patient navigators. Clinical trials, even with tools like this, it's a whole challenge, right? You were saying you called different facilities. I think you said you got a call back from 2 of them. It's still a big effort to try to get into a clinical trial. And we have this dedicated team of patient navigators that if you want to participate in a trial, it doesn't have to be one specific either. You can say, I'm interested in joining this trial, just click begin now, and that signals our patient navigators that they can work with you, figuring out your medical records, double checking that you're eligible for certain trials, help you contact those facilities, so you don't have to spend hours and hours doing that. They can do it for you. They are highly trained and they really understand how all this works. And so they can be in contact with the patient navigators on the clinic side and just make the whole process smooth for you.
I think that's the benefit of combining technology with talented people. And what you're seeing, I might get emotional about this, but this is exactly what I wanted when I was diagnosed, exactly what I wanted, because it's personalized for me. And it's not just telling me to go sort through a list of even, 50 trials, but it's ranking them in the order. So it gives me a general sense of direction of what I can talk to my doctor about. It helps my doctor because I can go in and, bring my computer or flip it around and show them how it's matching me against trials too, and just to help me. So your team is extraordinary. I love it. This is why having an internal technology team, and I'm so grateful to JP and his team. We have designers inside of HealthTree. We have software developers inside of HealthTree. We have a medical team cleaning up all the data inside of HealthTree. We have these patient navigators. We have our education managers. I mean, we have so much, and the whole team is working together just to serve patients. So I'm just so proud of you and your team. I think it's incredible what you've done, and I know this is just going to keep getting better.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, it's a multidisciplinary effort, and everyone is very excited about these tools. And this is just getting started. So, as you were saying, as part of this beta program for the clinical trials, we're going to keep improving things. So if you log in now and log in a month, you're going to see things evolving. We're going to be checking more criteria. We're going to keep making these better and better. One very important thing there is we would love to get your feedback. So one big part of this is we want feedback from the patients. That's why you see these thumbs up, thumbs down icons here. So if you see anything that you're like, oh no, actually I'm younger than 18, you can click thumbs down. That signals our team that we need to go and look at your medical record to see if we did something wrong or if there's a gap in the medical record. And the patient navigators can actually contact you and verify anything that looks weird. So you can do it like that by criteria, but you can also tell us, there's a question here at the bottom saying, do you think we did a good job while evaluating this trial? If you think there's a mistake, click no. That signals our team again to go look at things. And a big part of this is we're a startup, we're trying to learn as fast as we can. And so please be candid with your feedback.
And you're also in the process of training AI, right? On certain rules.
Yeah.
So
it's an ongoing effort. And this is the era of AI. Every time you're using it and saying thumbs up, thumbs down, that helps us get better and better on the matching for you and for all future patients, just like with the trials.
Okay, it's so exciting. Thank you so much for building this for HealthTree. It's so thrilling that we get to offer this to patients. We're so excited to share this with you. This is our first announcement in March, which is we'll continue these Myeloma Mondays. And what else?
Yeah, every Monday we're gonna have fun things to show to the patients. And everything is with the goal of accelerating a cure and just making patient lives better.
Now, we talked about clinical trials being able to advance research. We know that, even if we had 50% of patients joining clinical trials to advance research, there are still other ways that they can join HealthTree Cure Hub, connect their medical records, and 100% of patients can really help advance a cure. So this is just one way, and we're going to be sharing 4 more big tech announcements during the month. So thank you. You're busy.
Yeah, we're busy. We're all busy. So thank you. Thank you everyone for watching. And it's going to be a fun month.
So yeah, we invite you to join HealthTree Cure Hub today so you can take advantage of this brand new feature. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.